This video directly responds to Scott Jones' video titled, "The Dead by Daylight Community Can Help the MMR Problem." I will be showing clips from this video as to not misrepresent his wording. However, I do recommend you watch his video first because his art's definitely in the right place, but he left out one or two things which, in my opinion, are crucial to this argument. Also, obligatory, this isn't an attack on Scott or his fans. This is just me throwing my 2 cents in on this discussion. One final disclaimer is that for the sake of argument, we're assuming that the MMR system actually works and isn't reminiscent of a toddler who tries to put all the shapes into one hole on one of those shape hole boards that every child seems to magically have. Without this omission, this entire debate is completely futile. With all that said, let's get into this. The primary point of Scott's I'd like to debate is that he thinks that people have decided that MMR is worth something. Here are his words exactly.
It's interesting, though, because this is actually not related to behavior at all. This is a completely community-induced problem. Because for some reason, people have decided that MMR is worth something. And a good analogy to make is that MMR is like money. It's like a currency. A dollar bill is only worth something because people have said it's worth something. It's like cryptocurrency. It's only worth something because the community has decided this thing should be worth a value. As soon as people stop thinking something is worth something, it's not worth anything anymore. It's kind of a weird concept, but that's how money works, and that's how MMR in this game works. So for some reason, people have missed half of that, and they've decided that MMR is worth something, because that's the only incentive to change your playstyle.
In all honesty, this is a good argument. MMR in its current state is almost useless? Almost? The only value that MMR has in its current state is the increased chance of better teammates while solo queuing in Survivor. Other than that, it shouldn't matter to the majority of the player base. However, what does matter to the majority of the players is the very thing Scott went the entire video without mentioning. Pips. Pips have never been more valuable because for the first time in their existence, they give you a tangible reward. With the new grade and grade reward system, players are rewarded in blood points for their progress through the grade system every month. At the peak of the rewards, a player can earn an extra 500,000 uncappable blood points. While this doesn't sound like much at first, 500,000 blood points is almost half of the amount of blood points needed to unlock all of a character's teachables and over a third of the minimum amount of blood points required to prestige a character. However, these increased rewards also comes with a drastic increase in the amount of time it takes to reach these levels. The increase in time required, in turn, increases the importance of each and every match, as every safety or DPIP means an additional 1 or 2 games you have to play to reach this final blood point reward. Inversely, every double PIP is 1 less game you have to play to get these blood point bonuses. Let's take a look into this from the average player who maybe only has an hour or 2 each day to play. Assuming all their matches are 10 minutes long, depipping once in an hour potentially undoes a third of their playtime for that day, because not only are they not rewarded for the 10 minutes they spent in that match, but they potentially lose their reward from a previous match also. This incentivizes players to fight for their pips more than ever. To try and clarify this point I'm making to anyone who still doesn't understand it, let me introduce you to the perfect metaphor for this new system: a nuclear power plant. A nuclear power plant is created and fueled with the intention of creating an item of value, in this case, power. However, this plant also creates a byproduct in the form of nuclear waste. In Dead by Daylight terms, the item of value is the pips, while the byproduct is MMR, and the fuel is a player's time. If the plant isn't producing enough powers, the owners may consider changing the refining processes to try and maximize their item of value production to fuel consumption rate. In Dead by Daylight terms, the refining processes are the perks, killers, items, add-ons, offerings, and playstyles that the player uses. The better the refining processes, the more likely you are to get a favorable fuel to production rate. I believe that these potential blood points, and by extension the pips, are more of what's motivating these kinds of playstyles than MMR. Calling back to the most recent MMR test, I don't remember them being nearly as sweaty as the new MMR can be, and while that could be from nobody caring too much as it was just a test, I believe that this shows that MMR is, at the very least, not the sole origin of this increase in sweatiness. I can't blame Scott for missing the blood point and pip angle to this problem. As somebody who plays DBD for a living, he probably has all the prestiges, perks, and characters he cares to get, so blood points aren't a big deal to him. I think had this not been the case, and he still had something to work for that involved blood points, he would have realized this too, because as it is, he came incredibly close when he made the claim that players are now scared to lose. He had the right idea, but he had the wrong reasons. I also wanted to address the idea that people are only playing sweaty because other people are playing sweaty. I wanted to try and work this into the previous section, however I couldn't work it in naturally or really even formulate my argument properly, so I'm just going to drop it as an addendum of sorts and hope it makes sense. I believe this plays a part, but is far from the only reason. Even if there was no blood point reward, which I believe, as stated earlier, blood point reward is a major player in this whole mess, competitiveness is a core human trait, and no matter what, there will always be people who will try to be the best, to outdo their opponents at any given time, people who will try to gain and exploit any possible advantages, no matter what. If you don't believe me, just ask Behavior's favorite developer, Sid Meier, and his iconic line, "Given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game."